Yeah, and so, yeah, it's quite because I have
There is even better for worse.
the Nordic are very good. The Nordic are like the Swedish when you present
Yeah, or like some accreditation or like
for an hour.
I'm sure that some people have it.
It's terrible for me. It's terrible. It's terrible. So much work. And then after you prepare a whole text where you actually challenge them and all they do is the opponent is the main person. The whole defense, they're like the star of the show. You're like, it's not even my work. But that's how it works in Sweden. It's crazy. It's very crazy.
I think if you follow anything like
Norway, it's not, Norway they present, but in Norway there's this other tradition where you enter with a cake. Someone enters with like swords and they do this for each defense. Yeah.
I haven't seen any swords.
Yeah, it's crazy, and then you have to enter like on the level of support and the jury, like the opponents, the second opponents, the examiners, and all that, and then the president of the jury first of all, it's crazy, super hard. And then you have the UK where it's not even happening. It's like internal, one external, yeah, but I find it to be like weird to have these people. If you teach, it's a big deal. Yeah, people. You have like two external reviewers that will write reports, two examiners that ask questions, and two internals, including your PhD Okay.
So it's a talk between us.
kind of closing.
It's a closing. So guys, you're all invited like this informal talk between us. With some questions between us.
Can you just go for a drink?
Yeah, that's a good idea. We're going to drink here.
Yes.
So maybe we can just say to Guru Kuchaya that we needed a drink to finish the thing. I think we all can come and sit a bit more in a round configuration, not all of us evenly. I think it's more nice to have a talk. Nice, this therapeutical last moment.
Hello, I'm good.
Yes, you have an issue having to deliver this final moment.
I'm a researcher.
You are? I'm a researcher program.
4 seconds.
I'm sure. It's not showing that.
No, it's not showing.
Okay. Super. Thank you so much. This is also between us. And also from the others that were watching the presentation and the introduction about the works that we're talking here, the temporal spaces and the Patricia. Do you have any questions already that you want to make the artists? Or some considerations, something that you're curious about on the process of the work? Do you?
I had a question about your presentation, but
About what?
your presentation, but I could answer.
You can mix. You can mix. Just throw it there, maybe. You throw it to me and they answer.
It's about what do you consider the main part of
creative part of what?
Of these creations and yeah, sorry.
What is the creative aspect of the work of the artist in these pieces? Where does it happen? Creativity or creation? Is that?
Yeah, but it was in the presentation.
You're right.
Like what is seen as creativity.
Yeah.
There was there was a table.
Yeah, there was a table. There was a paper written about it.
There's a paper, yeah. Yeah, so I think you're situating it a lot in the embodied creativity realm, which is still true.
It's still true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's and this could be a question, maybe turn it around with the project. There's different ways to think about creativity act. So there's like Sarah showed, also there's different epistemic positions even into creativity. And it depends what you're looking at there, and how you think about AI. And even to all of you, maybe there was different modes of creativity. Maybe you rearrange some things together, you're making decisions of conversions, should we stay with this or not, should we keep the AI away? And this is part of the creative process. This is all part of the creative process. So all of this is creative in a way. Because then we have to go on the taxonomy of what's the big creativity or mini C creativity, this whole thing. But then the rest is also part connected to the aesthetic realm of how you make decisions into this piece. And this is something I find interesting, because when we're all talking about, of course, this research aspect of artificial intelligence and interactive modalities and dance, but then you all talk about this aesthetic sense of the piece, of what you're expecting of the piece, of what you're composing of the piece, and what role do I let the short leash with the AI, I love that expression, should I have that kind of agency or not about the piece? And that compromise, the different modes of creativity and how you all make decisions is something I would be curious to talk between all of you, why not make it more clear? What's in your rationale, in both projects, to say okay, let's hidden it a bit, the AI or the process out of the audience, and let's show it more. What's making the rational, making that decision into the aesthetic object? I'm curious about that.
For our project, I definitely think just a note on creativity, I feel like if we had to pick specific parts of the chart, most of us were probably doing creativity on multiple levels throughout the whole process. Sometimes it is totally technical creativity, that this doesn't work, okay, how do we solve that?
Yeah.
There's this problem-solving aspect in specialized knowledge. I was thinking German. Fachkenntnis, specialized knowledge about something to help be if we do this, then then this problem won't happen in the code or with the equipment. But I don't know. For me, this idea of hiding the AI seemed, for me, a given with our project, or somehow it was when we talk about it, our AI use is really under the hood. It's running some things, it makes some decision, but it was not so much dictating what should happen. It's not dynamically changing the whole situation, because the frame of our installation was not that. But we did spend a lot of time with the AI in terms of training it, and we even trained some stuff that we didn't use.
Yes, we mostly know that we will not use it, but
we still spend
time of the result playing with it, because we are not serious at some point.
Yeah, to give a bit overview to people I didn't tell it yet, to each of the in our piece, when we step in and record something, we're recording like in camera footage the movement, but Louis wrote this thing where it will also create like a 64 by 64 pixel PNG image that each 2 lines corresponds to part of the body for 15 seconds, I think, 10, 15 seconds.
Yes.
And depending on the color of the RGB information of that pixel, it's the vector in space. So then actually we have like a time frame stamp barcode of the movement that has been recorded, and we take that barcode of each recording, and that's how we're matching. We're not actually looking at the footage, but representation of the footage through the PNG and the AI tries to see, okay, which one wants to match with. But then we also developed the whole thing that through the help with our other mentors to create movement. By creating these PNG files, it can create movement.
Oh. And how do you visualize that movement from the PNGs that you just created?
Well, so that's not in our installation,
Ah,
but
okay.
it is on a little website that we can send you the code.
It is in the documentation, but you can see visualization of a non-dancer that it's learning of the dancer that is inside, that generate a little sound, but in web UAP not very good, but on visualization, and you can see also on this website every person that went in the space. So there is like you are not just in the hard drive of Célia, you are also online.
So basically, when we come into space and like start dancing, we're creating this QR code
Yes.
of the whole sequence.
Yes.
But it's like you said on 15 seconds. 15 seconds.
It's only the first 15 seconds of your movement.
And that's okay. And that's gonna do the 64 on 64 thingy.
Yeah.
And it's just doing pattern matching with prior. And then when you tested it, do you see like, okay, when you're standing, it's actually triggering someone that's standing, or when you're like,
Yes.
is it accurate then at the end?
There is like the pattern that we make, like I make the hello 2 times, and I do this, and it was the first way, the way that we matched it. It was yes, many things of them making some kind of choreography, and the objective was to find her again. Yeah, I was making some. But yesterday it appeared sometime, and I mean, okay, I see this one.
Yeah.
It's my, it's yes to see the entrance, and after also yes we compare like image that we modified a bit, we put it in the directory, and we compare the same image to see if it's more moronic, but some kind of testing to yes to see if the thing is working well.
I think it's really interesting when you always talk about this aspect, even when you're talking about this, of how interesting it was for you guys to see the pattern coming up and see the relations of patterns and see it there. And then also like, why not, or why do you have this decision or not including people in that threshold? Because it seems that you have this experience because you have this information and you always share it so much in such a vivid way. And then maybe sometimes it comes just after the end of this relation, right? But maybe now does it bring questions of different things to make it more clear for the gamification of interaction of the user with installation or not? Because
we decided to put a very minimalistic UI on the visual to let appear the transparency of the system with the number of match, the accuracy, and the dates. It's really like to just follow the aesthetic of the system we used, and to give some clue for how it's worked. We were wondering at one point if it's interesting to put the texture on it, but at the end it was not so clear for people to have this information in plus.
I was doing some kind of very technical, like you know, like free graphism. We are in tech world.
I think it's important to keep this balance. Or no, it's not so complicated and not to put just too much thing. Yeah. Just the essential.
I think there was a link, but by the time we completed the system, and it was running smoothly. Like the aesthetic presentation of it was trying to more complement what we had already arrived to aesthetically. But I don't know, part of it was like trying to be more clear about the presentation of the metadata of, you know, this was filmed here in this location during, and we have the date and time stamp on it, but in the future maybe it would be more interesting to know, okay, you matched, like with this score of matching, it maybe produces slightly different aesthetic result too, or that it changes then how the sound functions, and actually even there are certain moments where we run like a really random, like not AI, just a wanderer of 2D values for certain modulation. But we were like, why is this modulation actually not connected to what the camera is looking at? So there are even like parts where we're like, oh, because we tried to get rid of as much randomization as possible, because if stuff is random, people don't know if it's because it's a system stability issue, or that's what they're inputting, or it's random to keep it interesting. And so I think that maybe showing the relationships more clearly would be a nice way to go further. Then people can try to manipulate those relationships too if they understand it.
It's for interaction. For what I would say, I think it could help the interaction. This gamification of what's my role in this. But yeah, it's nice. And how about you guys? Like when people are talking about for example, this question of the TV. People are interested in the TV, like there on the left. Does this bring some issues of should we place TV differently, information of TV differently, or like people are just saying stuff and we keep our aesthetic decision?
No, I think so. Sort of how that came to be was we had the idea that we were going to generate some sort of visual score, because that's kind of very consistent with the way that Tricia Brown worked. A lot of her scores were very visual, geometric structures, patterns, and for the music too, I was really thinking about like minimalist composers and sort of the processes that they would use and graphical score representation and stuff like that. So that was the idea, that we would have this visual language that we could follow. Then immediately the problem is you're on stage and the score is there. So that just obviously doesn't work. And then even having these complicated patterns on a display in front of us also gets very complex very fast, when all we really need to know is like some index of the actual media we need to do. So the screen was just something that we started using in rehearsals, just as an aid for us, and then we quickly realized, no, we just need to have this.
What I understood, you almost had like a countdown, right? Like there was a countdown that the sequence that was going to enter, that was like an 8-tempo sequence that was going to be played. And then we knew like this, tempo.
There's everything on that screen. There's both the countdown, both the tempo. It's all on like 16 counts or 8 counts. And then there's even like color coding where we know the intensity of the piece that we're at, or the intensity of the. But for us, when we were doing it, even the scores that are behind our scores I drew, and I like them. I think they're very aesthetic, and I also think they represent the movement in an interesting way for the audience members. But like our brain takes so much time to decipher them, that it was just not enough for the piece. Like we need to basically, all of us are just like kind of like in 1 microsecond looking at the screen, and then the minimum time possible to like understand it, send it the right message to the body, do it, is what we try to do. And so basically we couldn't achieve it unless we had minimum information on the screen that could just, and so that's the purpose.
Why to achieve it without the information? And why even to achieve it without information? That was part of the piece, right? It's like you almost like as you need it. Okay, we couldn't do it without the cue. We couldn't do it without the cue. But it was part of the piece to have the cue.
I guess, I don't know, I'm of two minds, because one, thinking in a purely musical context, like if you go to see an orchestra or an ensemble or something, and they're reading sheet music, like maybe some of us are interested to glance at the sheet music because we read sheet music or it's interesting, but a lot of people just want to see the performance. So to me, the TV screen is more of just, it's our sheet music. And, you know, I think explaining the process is really valuable and explaining like what is on the scores, but there's something to me also that starts to feel not cheap, but when it's like, ooh, but there's this TV over there. Like this is like, you know, the sort of secret, like
recipe.
There's a bit of something that I think I struggle with a little bit in our piece is like, I sort of feel like there's like a gimmick, and
Yeah.
I don't know that I'm like thoroughly like settled with that, and I try to present the piece not as if it's like a gimmick, because we do have this kind of complex thing that we do, and it's like, but oh, okay, that's what it's doing, and it's like, oh, it's AI, and then this and this, and then like, ta-da, and so I feel like the having this TV screen that's having some like cryptic numbers on it sort of feeds into the like AI-ism of the dance and technology. Like this is I guess my, you know, I haven't talked too much about this, but my somewhere back, something that holds me back from just being more excited about like really accentuating that, because I feel like at a certain point it does put us back, like dance and AI, like, ooh, the TV, that's the AI. You don't understand it, but you don't know what these numbers mean, but it's the AI.
But you know,
and I try to get away from that a little bit.
I think at the end of the day, really what we want is just to keep things interesting for us on stage, right? So that we keep on performing it. And like, like for example, I don't know how you guys feel, but like I really like A-Free. That's that specific sequence of A-Free. Whenever it comes, I'm like, A-Free, let's go. And so for me, it's like constantly interesting because an A-Free doesn't come that often. It comes like twice or 3 times. The whole.
It depends on the night, though.
It depends on the night, but
last night,
last night came twice, I think. Yeah. And so you know, it keeps it really interesting for me because I'm like waiting for A-Free to come, and it's not coming, and it's like A-Go, okay, well we've done A-Go so many times now, and then A-Free comes, I'm like, we need A-Free, let's go. So in a way, I think that's why. I think that's the core thing of like using this whole process. It's just to keep things interesting for us on stage, keep the excitement of doing it as well. And same in Umi, there are like sequences that I really like and that like are super good with the music, like the 15 is like such a beautiful, like I feel like it's a hug, you know, and then like he's back to the piano. And so when it comes, I'm so excited for it to come. And so I think like the system, I'm like internally waiting for it to do what I want it to do, and it might not. So, and that tension is what's cool.
And I think we don't talk sometimes a lot about the tension, and that's why I'm referring it, because we've seen even when we're doing mentorships here in the project, sometimes we talk, oh, AI and dance, and AI and that, and then we go to the AI doing a creative output. And then most of the people are like, well, we have to change it a bit so it's not boring, or maybe we have to fake it because it's not really giving the aesthetic that we want at the end. So I think that tension is super interesting to see how you manage. You're going to say like, oh, I don't want to show it that much, or
yeah, no, exactly. And I mean, the thing about, you know, sort of negotiating control is always that, because, you know, we have gone from just, you know, taking it all out just to try, like, you know, doing something random, see how that works, putting it all in and just letting it run the whole thing, and like, oh, that's horrible, we don't want to do that either. So, you know, sort of mediating, you know, some kind of shared structures that we can define, you know, larger sort of narrative, you know, builds and stuff, but let it give it the individual control. And still, I think we still, now that we've played it a few times night after night, certain nights we'll finish and be like, that was really cool, we really like the way it worked out, and others it's like, that kind of sucked, but I had to go to 8 so many times. Yeah. I had to go 8 to 15, like that's bullshit, like, because I'm like, well, you know.
Yeah, some transitions don't work, for example,
yeah, exactly.
like musically or...
yeah, this decision of not working. So going back to your question of where is creativity, I think because AI is like, it seems that it's generating a creative sequence that was never there before. But it doesn't seem at the same time that it's creating an aesthetic, interesting object, or if we're talking about graphic object, that is there.
But my opinion about that is that if we were to do it without it, it would be a little too, it would work a little too well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It'd be
Yeah.
too homogeneous, or we
Yeah.
would never go from 8 to 15
Yeah.
because it doesn't work, so we will choose something else. But it's like this system is forcing us
Yes.
to do things we wouldn't do otherwise, like going from 8 to 15. And at the end, like, Leo is like, glitching over it. He doesn't know how to go from 8 to 15. And that's what's making it also kind of interesting. So we, in a way, we're reappropriating the fact that it's mechanical and it's kind of dumb. It's actually really way dumber than a human that would make that kind of decision. And because it's dumb, it's actually pushing us into areas where we wouldn't go otherwise, and it's making us a little bit more uncomfortable. So, and I think that's actually interesting. So we play with those things, right? With this surprise, this uncomfort, and the fact that, and yeah, and for example, all of these like the way in which the piece is made is like a bit chunky because all of these sequences are coming one after the other, and that's not how musicians work, for example. I mean, for you guys, this has been such a challenge to rehearse so much, to make it sound continuous, to make it sound like they're going from one to another, to another, to another. But at the beginning, it didn't sound that way, and you guys were very frustrated with it because, you know, how do you make the counts, blah, 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 blah. And kind of the same for us as dancers, like how do you make it so it doesn't go like, I did my sequence, keep waiting for the next one.
But actually, I don't know the people that watch, but I love the moments when you look for the next cue. I think that tension for me was always like something that was like, da, 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 oh. And then like, it's almost like faking our relation there. So it's not just the score of music for me. So it was
That's
also
true,
this mixture between a score and a maestro also in a digital way, because it has like the colors and the sequence. So there's a lot of instructions there that could be, that has this presence,
I mean, I think in that way, like this triangle of what is creativity kind of talking, when you are forced to do something you are not familiar with, or you think for some reason is not possible, but you still try, that's then when you come up with a creative solution for that anyway. Or you're finally thinking in a way that's not what you already knew,
Yeah.
which is not creative.
Yeah,
So,
and that's interesting.
yeah.
That's interesting from an artistic point of view.
Yes.
It interests me.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But I think in like, because I also was watching the TV or trying to decode things the whole time. Like once I understood that, oh, okay, this phrase is this, or okay, I was more like, how does that system work? And what does that symbol mean? How does this drawing relate to this person? Or is it horizontal timeline? Is it vertical? Is it this line for this person? Is what is happening? So like, I think that being either like so, I don't know, it's like being such a non-presence for you guys, or being really a very important player in accepting and seeing it and then using it to try and tell you what to do. I think it helps a lot for me. It doesn't keep switching this, like now I'm performing and now I'm not performing, but actually the whole time you are performing by checking, you know. I think for me this was really an important part of the piece.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, did you have any positive surprise about using AI? Because you all know this kind of negative and this frustration. People are not getting what they expect to have. But there was some kind of, for you working with this kind of technology, there was like, oh, this is nice. Did you have any of these moments?
Yes, for us, before we were using like things like Kinect and things like this to get body on Well, I put it on a webcam. It's much more cheaper, much more easier to set up, and quite happy also to find better tools and to offer many songs. Yes,
Yeah, it's true. It was very helpful for just a great sensor, very affordable sensor. Of course, it's a big switch because just before we created a lot of interactive installation with our Kinect or the new Kinect that is very much expensive. And I think it's a very strong detection just with one webcam and one simple AI model.
Yes. Yes, on the navigation to data also for me it was quite nice because we already thought about project with navigation of previous movement into our drive, but it was like physical in a virtual space, and we were happy to skip this part and to also direct trajectory to make things that even if we don't understand how it works, like.
I was gonna say the exact same thing, like a single video camera to motion data was, that for me, it's like, okay, this is a great use of AI, right? Because it makes it so easy and simple and fairly accurate to do.
And that worked from the beginning.
Right, yeah.
No headache.
Yeah, and that was actually something sort of taken from a parallel project that I've worked on for a while. I mean, many of us are using the same core tools to do it. So yeah.
And for you, for the sequences, did you find any generated sequence that makes sense? Or not?
No.
Sense.
What's that?
It was mostly the voltage, right? Because
Yeah.
when it was working well, also outputting the same thing because like having the source material would be like very repetitive, so it would output a lot of repetition, which was very interesting from like a kind of technical point of view. But
Yeah. So like specifically in the technology design where I was doing the motion data and analysis of features to feed into everything. And yeah, when that worked really well, like we got it together, it worked great, and then all of a sudden the output was really boring. It was doing exactly what it was supposed to do, and Patricia Brown was dancing like very very precisely
And it was
monotonously, and so our instructions were very monotonous. Okay. That one.
It
Yeah,
makes
exactly.
sense, it's normal.
That's working.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because she also in her rehearsal she would repeat this movement like 30 times until she gets it, and then she does, and like we used a lot the accumulation videos of like she's like, and so for example, then we were trying with different features, and then then we got like results differently if we were using the head or if we using the data. So some choices needed to be done, but basically we tried many things, but all of the clustering was pretty homogeneous, and there were never a representation of all of our categories in that data because the data itself was super limited.
I can say, one thing that I think I was pleased with, not necessarily the AI, but the process was, it was just over the summer that we made this arrangement with the Patricia Brown Dance Company where they gave us several archival videos. So then we had the idea to do like a different Patricia Brown archive each night. And then that was really neat because then doing it night after night, we could really understand like the different qualities from night to night. And that was, I felt like the reward for like actually making a system that worked correctly. Then we could see, when we look at the reference video, it's like, oh, okay, this was this, and you can't necessarily map it so directly that, this one she, went around in circles a lot, and therefore you were running around in circles. Not like that at all, but you could understand different qualities night after night in terms of the sequences that put out. So yeah.
Maybe there's also like a question, if there's like a positive outcome, like indirect consequence of when it's repeating itself. the AI, or when you find it monotonous, or you find that you say things like it doesn't work, or it doesn't function, or I don't feel this is aesthetically interesting. Does it like by questioning, by forcing, by being dumb, by questioning, reinforces or redefines or refines our sense of our aesthetic appreciation of or what we feel is more interesting or less interesting. Because when we're having this conversation with a human, we are fighting against a different point aesthetic view. And with AI, with experience with some projects we talked about, it's like they're always saying like, no, you're not getting it. AI is not getting it what I want. So that forces the artist in some way to redefine what they're looking for. Or
Yeah, I think we can talk about it in terms of the avatar actually in our project, really, because I think one can say that about the AI, but for example, when we work with the Mirevi team and they proposed that avatar representation of the body, at the beginning we thought maybe instead of having scores, like written scores, we will display the avatar of Trisha Brown. That's the origin of what we're doing on stage. But, and then we've redesigned that avatar multiple times, and then it just didn't work it just didn't work aesthetically. And then, you know, it was kind of difficult to say that, and also, you know, they're super nice, the Mirevi guys who came, that they looked at it more from an engineering perspective. And I was saying it doesn't work, but it's working, you know. But yeah, but it's not. Like, how we struggled to actually explain to them what was it in that avatar that just didn't work in our piece, or why we didn't like it, or something like that. So I think when we decided to get rid of it, it was a little bit of a difficult situation. We went through the whole weekend thinking through it, get rid of it, came back on Monday and we're like, yeah, it's not gonna make it, okay. And I think at that stage, like, I had understood what in my own personal, like, human aesthetic isn't, like, into that avatar idea at all, and why I didn't want to dance with that kind of bodily representation, because also it's had this gimmicky, also mimicking, but like gimmicky thing of like me dancing with the representation there, and what is it telling, what does it mean, why, how, all of that couldn't answer all of these questions. And so at some point, you know, it just didn't sit with me, like I thought about it, I was constantly thinking about it, and I was like,
The body knows.
Yeah, exactly. And then we came on Monday, and then, you know, we talked about it, and then I was like relieved. Everyone was like, yeah, right, no. It's just, so then we decided collectively to get rid of it. We felt bad because a lot of work went to it, but then at the same time, I felt good about it myself because it allowed me to make a clear decision. You know, sometimes you don't know why you make some decision, and then this was just the clearest decision.
That's why I was asking if this could be like a secondary, sometimes unseen positive aspect of dealing with something like AI.
Then you understand your own directorial approach to dance or something.
It just learns by text, right? When we go like with AI and we go like, I like to say please and sorry to my AI, because I'm afraid to get back to me if I don't.
You say thank you?
I say thank you. I say thank you. And sometimes also we say like it's not right, and it goes like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I will try to learn this. And so I think there's something there also with the aesthetic appreciation. If we go back and forth with this interaction.
Yeah, like this is self-reflexive too.
Yes.
Right? So then you can reflect on your own aesthetics.
Yeah, aesthetics.
Yeah, for us it was kind of like the AI didn't produce unexpected things, but working with it kind of did, because you have to, when working with AI, you kind of have to formalize something, like at some point you need to take a decision, like even very basic ones, but that actually are very important to understand how long is the frame to analyze data, or tons of stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so it kind of, you have to take decision, you have to think, so what's important in our piece, and what can we change, like what do we want, what can we negotiate really? We are keeping the AI on the leash, but also giving it a bit of creativity we have to, and so we're choosing on which area we are doing that. So it's a self-reflective tool in that way too, because we have to, even I don't know, like working with it, we were like using read system a lot, so it means like the dance movement and the music progressively became like kind of fixed.
So you're using what, a grid?
So in grid system, like everything was an account, at least for some sections. So it meant that we had to kind of change and adapt the parts so that they would fit this temporal system. But then for other things we were feeling a bit more free to do something else. Like for instance, if it's like 3 times the same section, I think like we all kind of know that there are some things we have to do for it to build that section, but also we can kind of modify something musically or for dance.
We took some freedoms on stage.
Yeah.
That's
So it's,
yeah.
It's fun.
yeah.
Okay, will you do it again with AI, or it's like it's over? Right? It's a nice relationship that it's over.
Unless Simona was here to tell us her opinion
Yeah.
about AI.
Simona would be like, never ever again.
Yeah. We were mentors of the project.
Yeah. Simona's done.
Speaking of it not doing what you wanted to.
We have heard about it.
Yeah.
We've heard about it, yes. That's why it came also this aesthetic appreciation. She was like, it's not.
But I felt that there, not to reference something that not all of us know, but I felt that it was really embodying, like encapsulating this whole experience of not doing what I wanted to do, but then having to work with that and to deal with that and make decisions around that. I thought that was really
Came through. I don't know if I want to do it again. I don't know what's the next piece for me. I take my time usually. Tell you in 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have plans for the moment, but I'm not against it.
I kind of have 2 answers. One is yes, because sort of AI as a tool exists. I mean, we probably all use it in some way, shape, or form with whatever we're doing. If it's to revise a little piece of text, or using motion capture tools, it's baked into everything. So in a way, like every piece will have, every one of my pieces will have it somewhere probably because it exists. But then more than that, I guess I have an idea for a next piece, but it's not really formulated, which would take kind of what we were doing and then make it a little bit more intentional. And so then you play with this, like, okay, now let's give it all to the AI and really let it go and do, it's a bit tongue-in-cheek or sarcastic. Let it crash and burn, and we can all laugh at it a little bit, and then do what we as the artists want to do and sort of play back and forth and see how that turns out. But sort of
And that brings me to the question, because sometimes we have the tools when they appear, and at the beginning when there's projects with arts and technology, we just see like, oh, let's show you the tool, how the tool works. We all see some kind of different projects. Okay, now we see the tool doing this. Now the body goes and it reacts, and we see this over and over. But then I think there's a process of introduction of the tool, and then the development of an aesthetic inclusion, or how to work aesthetically with that tool. And so I wonder if you think that AI can be developed to be more expanded in its aesthetic potential, even within an art piece, because this project at the end was an art piece, right, even by using AI, and not just like back-end tool.
There was something, I remember the thing that we didn't use for the final piece, it was the generation of the skeleton. first the generation of the skeleton autonomous. It was like at the beginning, it was very like we start to put the model into training, and it was just like a mess of bones, like everything glitching, disgusting, and more and more it started to be like a weird, weird things that start to behave, and at the end it's still a bit weird because you can't move. The hip is like stuck at the center. You have this guy trying to dance and with all the default of all the detection. And like, for me, it was like very touching because we were like first with Andrea, we were making back and forwards, and more it's like it's alive with alien emoticons. And I was like, I want still to use this weird because we wanted to put it somewhere that we didn't have time. For me, I still know that it's somewhere this like glitchy monster. And I want to use it somewhere.
Glitchy monster will come back.
Yeah.
Can we wrap up? We have last AI. So thank you all so much. Do you want to add something else before we wrap up? Or just saying like, I would like to wrap up?
I don't know, I just wanted to say that maybe this idea of AI really depends on which models or which vision we talk about. I feel like us or you guys, or even the Yugen, we've done like a customized kind of tiny little models that would do what we want them to do. You guys are using pattern matching. We're using a dicey that's like shuffling things around with these two sets of data, etc. I think Simona and Greg are the ones who were dealing with these big, language models and stuff like that. They're proprietarian, crazy word. And I think those have their own challenges in terms of like how we see things moving forward in terms of creativity or like creative work or artistic practice. That's a very different, distinct approach from the custom-made little things that are running on our laptops and stuff like that. I don't see, and I do some work like investigating how AI artists are basically working with these big language models or big diffusion models, etc. And that doesn't look like a very bright future for the arts, frankly, because they're proprietarian models. They're looking at art from a very specific vision. You can't train them or have very limited way of training them. You don't own basically the data. It's like it has big problems, and it's not, I don't think it's in the favor of the artists at this point. If we're looking at talking about AI as pattern matching, or as what we do, it's just also kind of pattern matching. Anyways, and Yugen, I'm not even sure. I mean, they're doing mostly like avatar, and it's not even pattern matching. Like, these are small systems that run on our laptops, and we still maintain authorship over them. And so I almost like see that this talk could be very different if we're talking about this other way.
Completely different.
Yeah, I think to like piggyback off that, when we talk about what you said now about like giving AI more agency as opposed to it being a back-end thing, I think maybe on a broader philosophical question is when you use AI, what is it replacing of the human interaction or participation of what you're making? Or what is it doing that I cannot do? Like, I cannot do body recognition. I simply can't. So having that is critical to either because it lowers the technical barrier by a lot or something. So it's necessary tool. It is back end, but maybe it has, maybe in a different format, it can take front and center highlight. Maybe it makes a decision based on it, and it's really transparent, and it makes decisions, but it's not replacing decisions I could make. I think that is really important, because then when we look at things of, I don't know,
Stable diffusion.
Yes, stable diffusion work, or things that, if someone like trained, something that could make the Hayao Miyazaki's style, and there's the eclipse of him saying like this is an affront to humanity, or because he's very opinionated about creative work and doing it yourself. But in a way, it's like, well, there's a certain argument that, well, this gives you access to, this allows people who can't draw to draw, but you're not drawing. You're still not doing it. Right, so your creativity is in your prompt making, and not actually having the skill to draw. And
so that we will have, that's why I think it's important, and when I was working also with my work, to say like, so what is the prompt? What is to make an essence? What is to be an artist? And also this, I think, would be a positive aspect of the confrontation of working with tools like this. But make us like define it.
But I think for me, the question there is then the result is, could someone have done it with human hands? And maybe that's really an important factor, because then it makes it feel that, well, if someone could spend the time to learn and do that, that means something on the human experience level, as opposed to, well, we can let AI do it. But there's certain things that AI can do that maybe it just expedites what you'll be able to do in your human interaction with it, as opposed to, I spend all this time for it to do something that who knows someone that's really, not to take away what anyone enjoys or doesn't enjoy, I say this with total neutrality. You spend years learning how to write the perfect prompt. Maybe that could have been years to learn how to make that piece of art anyway yourself. There's different levels of enjoyment, but like, what is that person's like participation in that? And
yeah, I think it asks some serious questions about like.
It's a serious question and an ethical question, because if you go back in time, like on editing, you could say like, oh, in editing videos and pictures, like you could go manually, and why taking the time to learn it, or you could go manually, and you could say it's the same way with reviewing a text. So I think when we're getting these new tools, this getting into the analog experience and what's the gain in it or not, it's a very good ethical question, but I think it's not obvious. I think it will not be I think maybe it's obvious for an artist that wants to go through the process, but some people that go like, no, I have the illusion that I draw, or that I edit pictures, or that I edit the movie, and it's done at the end. So, but they didn't have the process at the beginning of the process. But there's for sure interesting questions. Right, and it's very different, like you said. AI, sometimes everyone talks about AI, there's very different kinds of AI that we are referring to. Philosophical questions are very good. Thank you all, thank you all. Yeah, and now a drink. You're not going to drink.
AI does not know how to drink. It doesn't know how to
It doesn't have a bottle.
It also doesn't get a hangover.
You can mimic it. Maybe it's like, oh, today.
That's true.
Cool. 95.
Just one time I was living near the Bonansea studio. Far from Rosenthal.
That's his area.
I didn't have to live there.
Yeah, I hate that lab is all the way.
Yeah.
We really wanted to watch a dance piece and then we take the train to the end to watch it.
Wasn't much to do.
It's not steaks like steaks, I don't think. I don't know what sort of vegetarian options they had because I'm not vegetarian, so I don't think about it.
Yes, it's not expensive. Yes, there is 4 at 6 euros.
What's it called?
4,193.
Ah, the pho thing.
Formidable.
It's a Vietnamese. Ah,
It's simple.
really?
The chicken.
Can we go there?
To the pho?
Yeah.
Does it have space for a lot of people?
I don't know. But just in front of Palatine, but Palatine last time was quite full. Of the big metal. The big metal things also serve
Ah, yeah, but
Four?
yeah,
Like before we came here.
yeah, everything the wheels of the music.
Oh, maybe we can put somewhere where there are drinks and food.
Yeah.
For whoever wants
So
to
there's
go.
a food place.
Maybe I could take a pool or you send me by message where you
No, I also want to.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like tea or
So you put on pants and.
So,
What do we put on pants and? How do we do that though? Just go back and then leave in the lobby and figure out what.
That's the hotel lobby.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you, Robert, for everything.
Így meg mindenki.
Most nem még egyébként.
Amely lehet, hogy megizéltem lent a másik társulattal.
Ja.
Azt a kurva életben, ez nagyon gyors volt.
Igen.
Figyelj, amit akarsz, mindent figyelj.
Kajából király teszik.
Jó? Ezeket elkezdem fölvinni. De ott meg lent, de most már ott is már kezdik a megoldás megfárni.
Nagy teremben?
Aha.
Hallottam, hogy...
Bonyolult volt.
Igen.
És jó, ezt ide teszem. Ezt ide. Leviszem majd. Volt érdekes is, volt, ami érdekelt is?
Érdekes is volt, azért igen. Igen.
Jó.
A görög AI-os kérdések mindig az van, hogy
használsz?
több kérdést tesznek fel, mint megválaszolnak.
Ja, értem.
Én annyira aktívan nem használok egyébként, de hogy így...
Én nem tudom, hogy ez mit fog jelenteni a jövőben, ez az AI, fogalmam sincs. Szerintem sokat.
Szerintem is, de...
Még nem látjuk át.
Egy eszköz lesz.
Igen, azt ő is
szerintem nem
mondták.
fogja a művészeket ez
Szerintem sem.
lecserélni.
Hanem használni fog.
Ez igen, ez egy eszköz.
Igen, én is így látom. Ezt oda dobom. Majd azért azt felkasztod meg nekem a...
Aha, igen,
Jó,
persze.
Ezt nem láttam. Még jövök persze, mert pakolok.
Okay.
Víz kell, vagy az nem?
Most nem köszönöm.
Jó. Csak azt szed össze, ami kell neked.
Jó.
Csak a többit én meg viszem föl.
Viszont
Jó.